This is a major point in the current time in Europe, beyond our eastern borders towards Ukraine. Ukraine is a friendly state, and there in Ukraine, the Russian army is murdering innocent civilians, bombing children's hospitals. We have seen pictures of women who are on the point of giving birth who are having to flee a hospital in ruins. We could not imagine such things happening in our modern times. And it is a great honor for us here in Poland to have the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, here with us. This shows the strength of bonds between our two nations and between allies. Her visit shows the strong commitment that the United States has to supporting the eastern flank of NATO and to Europe in its entirety. I would like to highlight the fact that there is no doubt that with us, with our allies, with the United States, with allies within NATO, and with all of those honest countries that stand by Ukrainian side, that we will be able to do everything we can to defend Ukraine. Thank you, Madam Vice President, for coming here to Warsaw. And I would like to thank you for the discussions that we have had this morning, for the conversation that we had together just a few moments ago, but also the ongoing dialogue between our delegations. I would like to thank you for taking the time to touch on all of the most important topics that we were able to this morning. During our conversations, I was able to thank America for all it has done. I was able to extend my gratitude towards President Biden. And I also took this opportunity to thank the Congress, the American Congress, for enacting the highly efficient sanctions that they have been able to put in place against Russia, because we can see that these sanctions are working. It was also an opportunity for me to thank all of the humanitarian aid that is being sent out to Ukraine. And it is an opportunity for me here with the Vice President by my side to thank her on behalf of Poland for having sent out all of the humanitarian aid, medical supplies, which is being sent to the Ukraine, because these fundamental medical supplies are going to help heal the wounded. And it is fantastic to see all of the great work that we are doing through international organizations and to see what President Biden is doing through those avenues. And it is quite encouraging to see that the bonds between Poland and the United States are growing and are becoming even closer, because it is through that bilateral work that we can further support people who are in great need of our assistance. For some days now in Poland, we have been taking in Ukrainian refugees. There are roughly 1.5 million Ukrainians who are now on Polish soil. And it is with great pride that I can say that these people aren't being sent into refugee camps. They have been taken into Polish households around the country. They've been taken in, being housed in homes, in hotels, in all forms of accommodation. And the Polish people have stood up to provide assistance to the Ukrainian people. And I would like to thank all of the people throughout Poland for that support. It is with great pride that I've seen you step up to the mark. But I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Madam Vice President for her support, because we are currently facing a humanitarian crisis. It is challenging times for all, but also for Poland, as we see the increasing fuel prices and energy prices. Given this context, it is fundamental that we have the support of the United States, and I am very much thankful for all of the support that we are getting from the United States. All of this support is helping us in such trying times. We were also able to talk about issues pertaining to security, because having Vice President Kamala Harris here in Poland, it reiterates the importance of our relations, because we have American military systems throughout Poland that are here to protect us. But on top of that, we were also able to witness this strong political message coming from the United States, because here having Vice President Harris here in Poland, it shows that they are by our side and that they are willing to do everything that is in their power to stay by our sides so that we can show unity, so that we can show unity within NATO, that there is solidarity between nations, and that we can speak with a single voice, that we, within Europe, within the European Union, within international organizations, we speak with a unified voice. And this is what we have seen with the sanctions, the hard sanctions that have come in against Russia. Because what is happening in Ukraine is tantamount to genocide, bombing a pediatric hospital where there are pregnant women, where there are children. When you see missiles crashing down on neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods, there's only one word to describe that: genocide. And this is why we need to take a strong stance as representatives of the free world. We need to take a strong stance against this. And we in Poland, this is what we are going to do. This is what our allies are doing. This is what all honest countries, democratic countries of the world are doing. During our discussions, we also spoke of ramping up security. We want to bolster our own domestic security in Poland through procuring further military equipment. There are programs that are already underway, such as the Patriot program, the F-35 procurement program, and also a number of another program to procure Abrams tanks. And these are various programs that we already have in way, but we want to ramp them up. We want them to be pushed through as fast as possible. Do we need them now? I think we need as much as we can get as soon as possible, because what we see to the east of our country is horrifying. But what we also see is great heroism and determination of the Ukrainian people. And we stand by their sides. We support them. We support them in everything they do, while also ensuring the security of our own country. And that is for us fundamentally important. I would just like to thank you, Madam Vice President, once again for coming here to Poland, for having shown that we are united, that we stand together, and that we are a great transatlantic organization for freedom and security.
Thank you, President Duda, and for the warm welcome under unfortunate circumstances, given what is happening in Ukraine, our friend. But I thank you for the warm welcome and for the very constructive and productive conversations we had today as part of our ongoing dialogue and friendship that spans generations. I would like to also speak directly to the Polish people. I have shared with your president that under his leadership and your leadership has been extraordinary. The world has been watching Poland, Mr. President, your leadership and the leadership of the people of your country. And we've witnessed extraordinary acts of generosity and kindness. We have seen through images on the television, looking at images of ordinary people doing extraordinary things in support of the dignity and the well-being of perfect strangers. So I first and foremost want to express the thanks for the people of the United States, to you, Mr. President, on behalf of our President, Joe Biden, and to the people of Poland for what you are doing every day. It really represents the best of who we are. We are here, and I am here in Poland today, as part of an enduring, long-standing friendship and commitment between the United States and Poland based on shared values and priorities. I am here, standing here on the northern flank, on the eastern flank, talking about what we have in terms of the eastern flank and our NATO allies, and what is at stake at this very moment. What is at stake this very moment are some of the guiding principles around the NATO alliance, and in particular, the issue and the importance of defending sovereignty and territorial integrity, in this case of Ukraine. As President Duda has described, we have been witnessing for weeks, and certainly just in the last 24 hours, atrocities of unimaginable proportion. A maternity hospital, a children's hospital, where we have witnessed pregnant women who were there for care, for one reason, being taken out because they required care because of an act of violence, unprovoked, unjustified. I am here in Poland as an expression of the enduring and important relationship between the United States and Poland that again has been long-standing, but in particular on the issue of Ukraine, is unified and is clear. We will do everything together, in partnership, in solidarity, to support what is necessary at this very moment in terms of the humanitarian and security needs of Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. Today we discussed, Mr. President, many issues that relate to our special bond also, because I will say as a point of personal privilege, we have a substantial Polish-American community in my hometown of Los Angeles, but throughout the United States, who understands the relationship that we have on many levels, including the diplomatic, but also cultural relationships that span generations. And so through all of that, and in the spirit of those relationships and our shared commitments, our shared commitment to the importance of international norms and rules, you and I discussed today many important topics, in particular as it relates to the eastern flank. And we talked specifically about what we care deeply about in terms of our commitment, the United States commitment to Article 5. I've said it many times, I will say it again. The United States commitment to Article 5 is ironclad. The United States is prepared to defend every inch of NATO territory. The United States takes seriously that an attack against one is an attack against all. We are here today to restate that commitment, but also to do what we must do to reinforce our support of Poland and our allies through the EU and NATO alliance, in particular as it relates to troop deployment. We have recently deployed an additional 4,700 American troops to Poland. That's on top of the years of rotation of about 5,000 American troops in Poland. We are pleased to have announced this week that we have directed 2 Patriot missile defense systems to Poland, and today I can announce that we have delivered those Patriot systems to Poland. We do this as a reminder and as a demonstration of our commitment to the security of our allies and our commitment in particular to Poland at this moment in time. As it relates to the people of Ukraine, they have suffered immensely. When we talk about humanitarian aid, it is because, yes, the assistance is necessary, but what compels us also is the moral outrage that all civilized nations feel when we look at what is happening to innocent men, women, children, grandmothers, grandfathers, who are fleeing everything they've known. Our outrage, which compels not only our security assistance, but our humanitarian assistance, is rooted in the fact that also we support the people of Ukraine who have shown extraordinary courage and skill in their willingness and, yes, ability to fight against Putin's war and Russia's aggression. So today we are also announcing, in pursuit of what must happen, which is to provide humanitarian assistance, that we will give another $50 million, the United States will, through the UN's World Food Program, to assist with humanitarian aid. The President and I also talked about the fact that, as he mentioned, Poland has taken, in just a very short period of time, in excess of 1.5 million refugees in from Ukraine. And that has put an extraordinary burden on Poland and the people of Poland. And so we will continue with the support that we can give you, Mr. President, in terms of the work that you and the people of Poland have been doing to bear this burden, but in a way that really has been with such grace and such generosity. We also are pleased to have shared with the President what our United States Congress has done, which is there is a commitment now of $13.6 billion in humanitarian and security assistance that will be then distributed and shared with Ukraine and the people of this region and Europe. All again, understanding that this moment in time requires both a humanitarian response as well as security assistance. And today, I'm also pleased to say that we are in ongoing discussions with Poland and our allies about the effectiveness of sanctions thus far and going forward. As we have announced in the United States, we have, through the United States Department of Justice, started a task force to do what is required and necessary and appropriate in terms of investigations as it relates to any criminal activities and behaviors on behalf of institutions and individuals, including oligarchs. We talked, the President and I, about the effectiveness of the sanctions we've seen thus far in terms of the courage and the bold action that has been taken through the NATO alliance to do what is necessary to send a clear signal that there will be, as we promised, severe cost and consequence for Russia's aggression, to the point that we have now seen a free fall of the ruble, to the point that we have now seen that Russia's credit rating has been rated as junk, and what we know to be real economic consequence to Russia because of Putin's war. As you know, the President of the United States also made the decision to do what was necessary in terms of the purchase of Russian oil in the United States. Again, we will continue to focus on this issue, keeping in mind that this is a moment that requires severe and swift consequence for Russia's aggression against Ukraine. And I'll close by saying what we say every day for these last weeks, which is we stand with the people of Ukraine, that we admire their courage, and that we are aligned in our support of their sovereignty and territorial integrity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mamy czas na pytania dziennikarskie. Proszę o zadanie pytania panią Jacqueline Skowrońską z TVP.
We have enough time for a few questions.
Dzień
First
dobry,
from
Żaklina
Polish TV.
Telewizja Polska. Chciałabym swoje pytanie skierować
Jacqueline
zarówno do pana
Awrowska
wiceprezydenta, jak i do
from
pana
Polish TV.
prezydenta.
I would like to
W
ask
jaki
you
sposób
a
to, co
question
wydarzyło się
for
na Ukrainie,
both
to brutalny
the
atak
American Vice
Rosji,
President and
wpłynął na
the
relacje
Polish President.
polsko-amerykańskie. Antony Blinken, sekretarz stanu USA, podczas
How
swojej
has
ostatniej
this
wizyty w Polsce mówił o
violent
tym,
attack
że
from Russia
przyjaźń
impacted
polsko-amerykańska nie była
relations
jeszcze
between
nigdy w
Poland
historii
and
tak
Russia?
silna jak
Anthony
w tym momencie.
Blinken,
Czy zatem przełoży się
when
to
he
na
recently visited Poland,
także
said
trwałą
that the
obecność
friendship
wojskową Stanów
between
Zjednoczonych w
Poland
Polsce?
and the
Bardzo
United
dziękuję.
States has never been stronger. Is this true? And how can you describe the American presence in Poland?
Cannot be said too frequently or strongly enough. The relationship between the United States and Poland is a deep, enduring, and strong one, and dare I say, has become even stronger when we have been faced as a world with such adversity. I think we all know, even in our personal lives, adversity really, truly can present the real measure of an individual or a relationship. And what we have seen, without any doubt, is that this friendship and relationship between the United States and Poland is a strong one.
Szanowni Państwo, odpowiadając na to pytanie, trzeba byłoby
Ladies and
sięgnąć
gentlemen,
trochę
just
głębiej.
to answer that question,
Powiem w
I
ten
think we
sposób.
need to look further afield.
Kiedy rozpoczynałem swoją służbę jako prezydent Rzeczypospolitej
When
Polskiej
I
w
took office
2015
as
roku,
president back in 2015,
doskonale zdawałem sobie sprawę z tego, że
I
agresywna Rosja, tak jak
was
kiedyś
able
mówił o
at
tym
that
pan
time
prezydent
to
Lech
take
Kaczyński
full
w
measure
2008 roku w Gruzji, nie
of
poprzestanie
the
tylko na
fact that
ataku w 2008 roku na Gruzję i w 2014 roku
Russia
na
was not
część
going to
Ukrainy.
stop, was
Wiedziałem
going
o
to
tym, że ten
continue
apetyt będzie
what it had already started in 2008
imperialny
in
będzie się
Georgia
pobudzał w miarę jak
and
świat
then
nie będzie na
later
to
in
reagował.
Ukraine.
I że jeżeli
I
świat nie
knew
będzie
full
reagował,
well
jeżeli
that
Sojusz
Russia
Północnoatlantycki nie stanie
had an
twardo,
appetite for a great empire and that they weren't
to
going to
będziemy
stop.
mieli kolejne
where
ataki
they
ze
had
strony
started.
Rosji, w których być może prędzej czy
we
później
knew-
ucierpi mój kraj,
And
Polska.
I knew then that we weren't going to be able to
Rozpoczynając
put an
wtedy
end to it then.
Swoją prezydencką służbę wiedziałem, że muszę uczynić wszystko,
And
żeby
Polskę
przed tym ochronić.
as a member of NATO, we were going to possibly suffer
Trzeba
from the
powiedzieć
consequences
jasno i
of
mocno tutaj w tym miejscu w
our
obecności
position
pani
in the world.
wiceprezydent, że tymi, którzy rozumieli
So we tried
doskonale,
to
o
plan
czym
for
wtedy
such
mówię,
a scenario.
mówiąc o rosyjskim zagrożeniu, byli właśnie
And I can say
przedstawiciele
here
Stanów
clearly
Zjednoczonych,
today
byli przedstawiciele
that it is,
administracji
in
prezydenta
fact,
Baracka Obamy,
the
sam pan
representatives from the
prezydent,
United States
wtedy
who understood our point of view.
generałowie amerykańscy.
The
To
American
właśnie dzięki ich
administration,
wsparciu
the Obama
uzyskaliśmy
administration.
Obecność Sojuszu
Back then,
Północnoatlantyckiego
they
na wschodniej
understood
flance,
exactly what our
wzmocnienie
situation
wschodniej
was.
flanki
The
po
American
raz
generals at the
pierwszy,
time, they knew
odkąd w
what our situation was.
1999 roku
And because of that,
przystąpiliśmy do
we were
NATO.
able to strengthen up the
To
eastern
właśnie
flank. And that was the
to
first
właśnie
time we were able to
szczyt
do that
NATO w
ever since
Warszawie,
joining
Przede
NATO.
wszystkim decyzjami prezydenta Stanów
It was during
Zjednoczonych i
the
jego
NATO summit in
współpracowników,
Warsaw
ale także
that a
reszty
number of the
sojuszników,
main
których udało
decisions
się
were made.
przekonać, doprowadził do tej obecności na
And
wschodniej
it was
flance
thanks
sojuszu,
to
a
American
symbolicznie u nas
influence and also
tym państwem
support
ramowym
from a
stały
number
się
of our
Stany
allies
Zjednoczone i
that we were
jednocześnie
able
przyjechali
to bolster,
żołnierze armii
to
amerykańskiej,
beef up the
którzy
eastern flank,
rozpoczęli
that we were
rotacyjną
able to
obecność
have American
w naszym
soldiers
kraju,
on our soil.
rotacyjną, ale trwałą, ale cały
And these
czas.
soldiers,
Żołnierze
they
się
are
zmieniają,
here
ale
permanently.
armia amerykańska
While they
obecna
are
jest cały czas
rotating
na
forces,
naszej ziemi.
there is
To był
always
przełom.
American
Jeżeli
soldiers
wspomnimy
on our soil.
słowa prezydenta Lecha Kaczyńskiego, które powtarzałem wielokrotnie, który powiedział do mnie kiedyś w
And
2008
that was a major turning
roku,
point for us once we
Andrzej,
obtained that military support.
wtedy kiedy na naszej ziemi znajdą się amerykańscy
Kaczynski,
żołnierze,
back in
znajdą się
2008,
amerykańskie instalacje militarne, znajdzie się amerykański ekwipunek militarny.
He
Wtedy
said to
cały
me
świat
then,
będzie widział, że to już nie jest rosyjska strefa
when
wpływów.
the day we have US
jest
soldiers
właśnie
and US
Prawdziwa przyjaźń, jak powiedziała dzisiaj
weapons on our
pani
soil, people will then see
wiceprezydent,
that we are no longer under the
friend in
yoke
need
of
is a
Russian
friend
influence.
indeed.
And I think that turning point is a sign, because a friend in need is a friend
Cieszę się
indeed,
ogromnie z
as
tego,
the
że
American Vice President has just said.
dzisiaj, kiedy jesteśmy w potrzebie i wtedy, kiedy wschodnia flanka NATO jest w potrzebie,
It
Stany
is
Zjednoczone
very encouraging to
decyzją
see
pana
that this is
prezydenta
still the
Joe
case
Bidena
today,
przysłały
when here the eastern flank
dodatkowych
of
żołnierzy
the
i
NATO alliance
przysyłają
is
i
in need.
zapowiadają kolejne wzmocnienie
Well,
obecności
the United
amerykańskiej w
States,
naszej części
through decisions
Europy
coming
i
from
dokładnie
President
także i
Biden,
u nas, bo to jest właśnie
that the US
zrozumienie
is truly a friend
istoty
indeed, because they have
wielkiej
sent more
geopolityki,
Russian soldiers.
strategicznych celów, które muszą być przez tą politykę i przez wolny świat osiągnięte i rzeczywiste rozumienie kwestii bezpieczeństwa. Czy przyjaźń polsko-amerykańska jest dzisiaj na przestrzeni tych ostatnich lat silniejsza niż kiedykolwiek? Tak, przyjaźń polsko-amerykańska z całą pewnością na przestrzeni 7 lat mojej prezydentury jest silniejsza niż kiedykolwiek i dzisiejsza obecność tutaj w Warszawie pani wiceprezydent Kamali Harris jest kolejnym tego dobitnym dowodem, jak i obecność wszystkich przedstawicieli administracji pana prezydenta Joe Bidena w ostatnim czasie tutaj na naszej ziemi, jak również, proszę państwa, to jak częste są kontakty pomiędzy mną a prezydentem Stanów Zjednoczonych,
We are in
jak często
constant
rozmawiamy
relations
na
with
te
President
najważniejsze
Biden.
tematy dotyczące bezpieczeństwa i
We are
wzajemnych relacji. Tak,
in
oczywiście.
regular contact,
Jeżeli
and we
mówimy o
often
wielkiej
speak about the
polityce i o
most
przyjaźni,
important
to jest właśnie
issues
przyjaźń
of
w wielkiej
our
polityce i to jest właśnie przyjaźń
bilateral
pomiędzy państwami. Z
friendship.
całą pewnością pomiędzy
And
Polską a
it really
Stanami
is that. It
Zjednoczonymi jest
is
ona w tej chwili
friendship,
bardzo silna.
friendship
Najsilniejsza
at the
być może
highest
kiedykolwiek w
levels
historii.
of politics between Poland and the United States. And that friendship is stronger now and probably stronger than ever before.
Hi, Madam Vice President. Thank you for, and President Duda, thank you for taking my question. President Zelensky has strongly asked for better air power in recent days. And my question is, what kind of alternative plans does the United States have to get materials to help Ukraine defend itself, especially now that you have declined Poland's offer on jets? Can you give us some specifics on what you discussed with the Polish leaders on this issue, Madam Vice President? And one for President Duda. The United States says, Mr. President, it was not consulted before you made the offer to make your jets available to the United States. Is that accurate? And did Poland act unilaterally in making an offer? If yes, why? Especially now that you have spoken about the strong relationship that U.S. and Poland has shared over the years. Thank you.
I want to be very clear. The United States and Poland are united in what we have done and are prepared to do to help Ukraine and the people of Ukraine. Full stop. In terms of the work that the United States has done thus far, we have, as you know, given military, humanitarian, and security assistance, and that is an ongoing process. As I mentioned earlier, Congress, the United States Congress, has now made a decision for $13+ billion of United States, of U.S. money, to go to Ukraine and our European allies to assist in terms of both their security and humanitarian needs. We have also just this past week given $240 million in security assistance delivered to Ukraine, and that's on top of the $1 billion in just the past year that we have sent to Ukraine. I can tell you that the issue facing the Ukrainian people and our allies in the eastern flank is something that occupies one of our highest priorities in terms of paying attention to the needs, understanding it is a dynamic situation and requires us to be nimble and to be swift. I mentioned being swift in terms of accountability and consequence. We also fully appreciate we must be swift in terms of providing assistance where we can be helpful, and we will continue to do that.
Any alternative plans, especially in light of the issue with Poland on jets?
Well, we're making deliveries every day in terms of what we can do in terms of assistance, and in particular, when you look at what we've been doing as it relates to anti-tank and anti-defense systems, that is an ongoing process, and that's not going to stop to the extent that there is a need. Thank you.
Kolejne pytanie. Proszę o zadanie pytania.
Zaraz, bo jeszcze ja muszę odpowiedzieć, pani redaktor.
Sorry, I would just like to answer the other question that was asked before taking any more.
Sytuacja jest bardzo trudna, bo wszyscy
The
obserwujemy,
current situation is
że
very
na Ukrainie
challenging.
trwa walka o niepodległość, o suwerenność, o wolność i o przetrwanie.
We can all clearly see
Wszyscy dzisiaj
that
wspieramy
in
z całych
Ukraine,
sił
Ukrainian people
naród
are fighting for
ukraiński, bo to nie
survival,
tylko żołnierze,
fighting
to
for
naród ukraiński, który
independence
chwycił za
and
broń po to,
sovereignty.
żeby bronić swojej ojczyzny. To nie tylko mężczyźni, to także
And
kobiety,
we stand
które
by
walczą
their
na-
side.
które
We stand
walczą
by
na
the
froncie
Ukrainian
ramię w
people,
ramię
not
z
just
mężczyznami po to, by
Ukrainian
obronić-
armed forces,
by obronić
because
swój
these are
kraj.
men,
Nie
women,
mamy wątpliwości,
civilians
że
who are
potrzebują
fighting
pomocy.
day in,
Powiem
day
więcej.
out to defend their country.
Przyjmujemy absolutnie
And
to,
we
że
know
mają
that
prawo
they
się tej
need
pomocy
assistance.
domagać. Od wspólnoty międzynarodowej mogą się
And it
domagać
is
tego,
in their
tego
full
wsparcia
right
od
to be able
NATO.
to reach out to the international
Udzielamy im
community
wsparcia
to seek that aid.
humanitarnego i wsparcia rzeczowego,
They can ask
jak
that
tylko
aid
potrafimy
from
i
NATO,
staramy się
and
to
we are
czynić
going
jak
to
najlepiej.
provide humanitarian
Pewne
aid,
oczekiwania
material
były
aid,
kierowane w sposób bardzo jednoznaczny i mocny również w stosunku do nas, w stosunku do Polski.
and we will provide that
Ale
to
my jesteśmy
the Ukrainian people
członkiem
because they are
Sojuszu
asking for it. A number of
I
requests
na
have
kwestie
come in
bezpieczeństwa musimy
directly to
patrzeć
us
nie
in
tylko
Poland.
przez pryzmat
But
nasz
also,
osobisty, własny,
requests have
przez
been made
pryzmat
of NATO.
bezpieczeństwa Polski, ale musimy patrzeć też przez pryzmat
And when we think
bezpieczeństwa
of
całego
matters
Sojuszu
pertaining to security,
Północnoatlantyckiego. Krótko mówiąc,
we have to
musimy być
look at each of
odpowiedzialnym
those
członkiem
cases
Sojuszu Północnoatlantyckiego.
and take-
Dlatego wobec
by taking into account the
zgłaszanych
security
w
of
stosunku do
all
nas w
NATO,
sposób wyraźny
because we
przez
are responsible, we are to be
stronę
held accountable
ukraińską
for the security of
jakąś
all
część
NATO members.
społeczności międzynarodowej, w tym media, oczekiwań, postanowiliśmy
Ukrainian
zachować się tak, jak w
people
naszym przekonaniu zachować
sent
się
out a very
powinien
clear request
wiarygodny
to Poland.
członek Sojuszu Północnoatlantyckiego,
And in light
który
of that
absolutnie
request,
nie zamierza w
we have
jakikolwiek
chosen
sposób
to act
narażać
as
Sojuszu
a fully responsible
na
member
trudną
of NATO.
sytuację, a z drugiej
And we
strony
don't want to
również
endanger
chce jednak mimo wszystko
NATO by putting us
szukać
into
możliwości
a more
wsparcia
dangerous situation or
dla walczącej
exacerbating
Ukrainy.
the situation.
I stąd
But we
wzięło
are
się
a NATO
oświadczenie,
member
które
who wants
sformułowaliśmy
to support the people of
razem
Ukraine.
z rządem Rzeczypospolitej, ja jako prezydent i rząd Rzeczypospolitej,
And
a
that
które
is
zostało
why
ogłoszone
we came up
przez
with the
ministra
proposal
spraw
that we did.
zagranicznych
We worked with the Polish government to come up with our
dotyczące
proposal.
polskich
Our foreign affairs
możliwości-
minister
polskich
announced
możliwości,
our proposal.
militarnych co do pomocy Ukrainie. Po prostu
We want
postanowiliśmy
to
oddać je do dyspozycji
increase
Sojuszu. Oddać je do
Poland's
dyspozycji Sojuszu,
military
nie
capabilities
oczekując w zamian w zasadzie
to further
niczego, bo
support
jak wyraźnie
Ukraine.
zaznaczyliśmy,
And we want to make that military equipment available.
za uzupełnienie oddanego
But we want to-
wyposażenia jesteśmy
we
gotowi
we
po
aren't
prostu
expecting
kupić to,
anything
co
back
w to miejsce jest nam
for-
potrzebne, a sami
for that
jesteśmy
military
gotowi
aid that we're
oddać
going to provide.
nasz sprzęt za darmo.
It's not an
Natomiast
exchange.
chcemy, żeby decyzja
We are
była
just
podjęta przez
making
Sojusz
this
wspólnie,
equipment
tak aby
available
Polska była cały czas wiarygodnym
almost
członkiem
as a
Sojuszu
donation.
Północnoatlantyckiego, a nie krajem, który samodzielnie decyduje w sprawach
So we
ważnych,
want
które dotyczą
Poland
bezpieczeństwa Sojuszu także
to
jako
remain
całości,
a
a więc wszystkich
fully responsible
krajów
member
Sojuszu,
of
a więc
NATO. We
także i
aren't just
naszych
acting
sąsiadów,
unilaterally.
którzy do Sojuszu Północnoatlantyckiego należą.
We're not a lone wolf. We make decisions while also
Proszę o
thinking of
zadanie
all
pytania
other member states
panią
of
Maję
NATO.
Wójcikowską z TVN24.
Good afternoon, Maya Wójcikowska, TVN24. Madam Vice President, each day we can see death and unimaginable suffering of the Ukrainian people caused by decisions made by Vladimir Putin. My question is, will the US supporting international investigation into war crimes committed by Russia in Ukraine, and can you see any political future for Putin? I to jest oczywiście też pytanie do pana prezydenta o tę polską stronę i
And we also have
przyszłość.
a question. That question applies also to the Polish president.
Okay, I'll go. You go this time, please.
Jeżeli
Okay. Not at all. We are very clear. The NATO alliance is stronger and Russia is weaker because of what Putin has done. That is very clear to us. And when it comes to crimes and violations of international norms and rules, we are also very clear that any intentional attack on innocent civilians is a violation. The UN has set up a process by which there will be a review and investigations, and we will, of course, participate as appropriate and necessary. But we all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But just limited to what we have seen. Pregnant women going for health care, being injured by, I don't know, a missile, a bomb, in an unprovoked, unjustified war, where a powerful country is trying to take over another country, violate its sovereignty, its territorial integrity, for the sake of what? Nothing that is justified or provoked? Absolutely, there should be an investigation. And we should all be watching. And I have no question the eyes of the world are on this war and what Russia has done in terms of this aggression and these atrocities. I have no doubt.
Dla nas oczywistą sprawą jest, że na Ukrainie
For us, it is
Rosjanie
perfectly
popełniają zbrodnie wojenne. Mam nadzieję, że oczywistą sprawą w
Russia is
przyszłości
committing war
również dla
crimes in Ukraine.
Trybunału rozpoznającego te kwestie będzie, kto jest za to
And
odpowiedzialny.
I sincerely hope
Natomiast
that it is
proszę pamiętać o tym, że
perfectly clear, or will be perfectly clear for an
uchodźcy z Ukrainy
international
przybywają
criminal
w tej chwili
tribunal
do
that will be
nas.
set up to
Obecnie cały
investigate
czas przez naszą
these
granicę
events.
przechodzą ludzie, którzy byli świadkami zniszczenia ich domów,
We see that
zabijania ich
there are
sąsiadów,
Ukrainian refugees
bombardowania
entering our
szpitali,
country every day. Every
strzelania
day
do
Poland
cywilów,
takes in these refugees. These
do
are
dzieci.
witnesses, people who saw hospitals being bombed,
To są
shots
dowody
being
z
taken
zeznań
on
świadków.
civilian populations.
To są także dowody, które są
And we
w
have all of these
smartfonach,
eyewitness
gdzie nagrania
accounts,
podnoszą włosy na
proof,
głowie.
evidence of what has
Takie
happened. People have taken
sceny
videos with their mobile phones of what has
dzieją się
happened.
dzisiaj,
And the
dzieją się
pictures
przez
and videos we
ostatnie
have
dni
seen
na
are
Ukrainie.
terrifying.
Sprawcami ich są Rosjanie.
These are scenes that we have
Przybyła do nas
seen
grupa
just over these past
prokuratorów
few days in Ukraine,
wydelegowanych
and the
przez
Russians
Trybunał
are the ones who are responsible
do
for
tego,
what is
aby
happening.
zapoznać się ze sprawą. Zbierają dowody. My jako
A
Polska
special prosecutor was sent out
ze
to
wszystkich swoich
collect
możliwości
evidence,
staramy się umożliwić im jak najlepsze możliwości pracy i wykonania tego bardzo
and
trudnego
we,
zadania.
as a country, we
Pamiętajmy,
will do
świadkowie
everything
są u
in
nas.
our power
Bardzo wiele
to make
dowodów,
their
choćby
job
w postaci
as easy
wspomnianych
as
przeze mnie
possible.
nagrań jest w tej chwili u nas.
So we have
To wszystko
eyewitnesses
jest
that are in Poland
zbierane
now.
i ta
Recordings
praca
are
trwa
being made.
I wierzę w to,
Videos
że
have been
zaowocuje
made by
ona
mobile phone, and
bardzo
all of this
poważnymi
is
aktami
proof and
oskarżenia
evidence that is being collated.
i wierzę w to, że
and pulled together.
doprowadzą one do
And
skazania
I
zbrodniarzy
genuinely
wojennych tej
wish
wojny,
for
która
this
ma miejsce dzisiaj
to be
na Ukrainie
utilized
w
as
wyniku
part of an
bandyckiej
international criminal
rosyjskiej
tribunal,
napaści.
an international hearing, where these war criminals will be tried for what they are, following this barbaric invasion.
Of NPR.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice President.